Thanks for being back. It was a pleasure last time, and this time it will also be a pleasure because there is two cities that I'm going to learn something from that I've never been to and that I do not know that much about. So I'm really looking forward for the next two speakers. I will tell you a little about some learning points from Copenhagen, and I will start. The first learning point is, or the learning lessons, is the longest one. So you just know that I will go through the last 7 very quickly. But I think the first learning point, looking at Copenhagen the last 10, 20 years, is that there was a shift in the zeros where we started both on the political level but also on the administrative level to think more strategic. So before 2007, we did not do that many strategies. We were mostly doing master plans on the medium level, site-specific master plans. We didn't do that many strategies that was citywide and that was for the whole city. So there was a shift at that time where we began to think more strategically. And I think that is a really good lesson to learn when I look at other cities and also when I look in Copenhagen and see how we will go on in the future. So we work now on those 3 levels, the citywide level, the large level, and we try to have a lot of political discussion on this level and talk about what kind of political vision is there for the city. And then it's much easier for us in the administration to go out, negotiate and debate about the city afterwards when we talk about how can we get the strategies down to the medium scale, to the site-specific level. And then the small scale, the bottom-up movement, is also something that we will find a balance in, so that when we lead the city, it is a balance between the top-down and the bottom-up movement. And we always have to find that balance where each single idea and each single project is as important and as the rest is. This is really going to be a fun night, huh? Yeah. I will tell you about the new strategies that we are having, and that's why this lesson or this learning is the longest one. So by the end of last year, we decided a new strategy that is called Co-Create Copenhagen, and it is a strategy that will last for the next 10 years. It is based on 2 other strategies that we were having that was decided in 2007. The first one in 2009. The first one was the strategy where we started to discuss how can we be CO2 neutral. And the second one is the strategy that said that we want to be the most livable city, a strategy that we call Metropolis for people. The City Life strategy is done together with the Jan Gehl, that I know that a lot of the academy, a lot of you also know as an architect. Those 2 strategies were designed with very precise goals until 2015. So when we came into last year, we had to think, what will we do after those 2 strategies? So of course we had to see if the goal were perceived, but it was also a discussion about, do we need 2 new ones, or how would we look at the future? So we decided to try to make a strategy that came across the other strategies that we were having, that was looking a little bit back on the good things that we have learned the last 10 years, but also to try to look of some new indicators that would be something that could put us in the next 10 years. And one of the things that we have learned from the last 10 years is that if we have an early dialogue with stakeholders, it is both the citizens, but it is also the developers, the stakeholders, the NGOs, all the different kind of people that is a part of the development. If we have an early dialogue, we will have better projects in the end. And if we have an early dialogue, it will cost less in the end to develop the project. So we have been having a lot of learning by discussing early on what does the city want and combine that together with what the different stakeholders want. So this early dialogue was one of the things that we tried to implement in the new strategy. Then we were the Green Capital of Europe in 2014. And by that year, we had a lot of learning about how we could create partnerships. So a lot of people from Europe and the rest of the world came to Copenhagen. We did a lot of partnerships with international cities, with international firms, but also a lot of partnerships together with small entrepreneurs in Denmark and people that just wanted to be a part of the development. And what we learned from that was that if we go together and do the development and the talking together, we would have a lot more effort in the end. So early dialogue, partnerships, and a lot of learning from a program we have in the city that is called Neighborhood Improvement, which is a program that has been going on since the 19, where Copenhagen was totally broke. So when you started to say that the development of the cities has sometimes go quite fast, you can say that has also been the story for Copenhagen, because in the late 80s, we were totally bankrupt and the city was put under administration. And because of that, the state went in and tried to help the city with some urban renewal program. And one of them was this the Neighborhood Improvement, which is a program where we put some of my colleagues into the local area and they work locally with the local people. And by doing that, they are not centralized in the same way that the rest of us are. So they do a lot of experiments with processes, a lot of experiments with the people there, a lot of design experiments. And in a way, they are just a little more wild than we are on the central office. We want to try to learn a little more from the local neighborhood improvements. And that is also a part of the new strategy. I'm still not quite sure where I have to point this. I pointed at you. The last one that was something that we could see was a new tendency, and that we had had a lot of good learning from in Copenhagen, was that we have been shifting our point of view in the municipality and in the central, in the administration. I think going 10 years back, we had an idea that the administration were making it easy for the administration to develop the city. And by doing that, we were not thinking so much of the need of the city. So in the end of that, we were more thinking of the need of the administration than the need of the city. And there has been quite a strong leadership in the city administration saying we have to change that view. We have to look at the need of the city instead of the need of the administration. And you probably have the same in a lot of other of your cities. When you talk with the citizens, they see the city administration as one, the municipality as one. So when we talk and say, well, it's another office, you have to call another office, the people just look at us and say, what kind of office? Well, I don't know, but it might be, call him. So in a way, we have been steering and having the leadership where we did not take so much focus on the persons or the city, but more of the way that we find it easy for us. And there was also a tendency that we were often, if it was complicated, it was much easier to say no than to say yes. And we had a learning in the Zeros where we did have this change in culture where some of us were not allowed to say no. We had to say yes to try to change so that there was a yes culture in the city instead of a no culture. Right now I'm trying to implement the no again a little bit. So those 4 new things is a part of the new strategy. But it is also, if we go and see that it is a lot to do with how we cooperate, it's a lot to do with how we co-create, it's a lot to do with how we talk together, with dialogue, then how do we do that? I can see that we have been good at doing user involvement, we have been good at talking, but it's not easy and it's quite complicated. And I think the main issue in this new strategy is that we don't know what will come along the next 10 years, but we know it will be difficult, and we know that the administration has to change, and we know that the people has to change. And I think that is something that we are just in the beginning of right now. And this is Annika Agger, a Danish researcher. I think that she's saying it quite precisely, that as the administration, we have to change the culture. We have to be aware of that we should facilitate and inspire and help people. And the people has to understand that they are not just customer in a system where they can say, I want this and I want this, but they have to take responsibility in another way that we have been knowing for the last 10 or for the last modernistic period. So there has to be a change in the way that we will cooperate, and that is the main issue in this strategy. So co-create is the central theme, and by having that as a central theme, there is three goals in this strategy. So we want to be livable, responsible, and we want to create a city with an edge, and I'll just dig a little bit into that. The livability has 3 indicators, and a lot of it is what the platform that we are standing on already, and something is new for the look ahead. The livability is, I think we have been changing the view on how we will be livable for the next 10 years, or where we will try to put the focus when we talk about new themes. The last 10 years we've been talking about livability as having a lot of party and festivals and creating noise and good things. And I think that the focus now is changing a little bit to how can we also get the everyday life out into the city. So we have a precise goal saying that within the next 10 years, we want people to stay outside 20% longer. And if we have to succeed with that, we have to focus on how can we get the everyday life out onto the street. This is just an image to show why do we not have meetings outside? Anyone? We know that meetings outside gets done faster and there is less conflict. I don't know how businessmen do not see that as an option for earning more money. But I will help them if they come to Copenhagen, and I will try to say we have to create situations outside where it is possible to have meetings. But it is also when we do gymnastics and when we do sports, if we do it outside instead of into to halls where there is no daylight, the endorphins get into our brain a lot faster, and we succeed better with doing the sport. So there is a lot of good knowledge about human beings that can tell us that getting outside is good for everything. So that is a new specific focus. Then a new part of this is also a part of a global tendency, and probably from all the cities that you are coming from, there is this feeling of people insisting in getting more nature into the city, right? I think in every newspaper I read, every time I come to a city, there is some article about people that is fighting for a tree or fighting for a green space, and that's the same in Copenhagen. So parallel with this new strategy for co-creating, we have also been doing a strategy for how to create more urban nature in the city, and that helps us in the discussion with the developers and together. And then the third indicator is, again, how we can keep on focusing on the bike strategy. We were talking about lunchtime, about how many people in specific cities are taking the bike every day from school or work to their housing or their home. In Copenhagen, it is, I think it's around 67% that do not use a car on their everyday life, but that is taking the bike from school to the home. And when we ask the Copenhageners, why do you do that? It's because it's easy and fast. So one of the issues in our bike strategy is that we will focusing on speed. And we do focusing on speed if we create shortcuts in the city. So there is a direct connection from the bike strategy into how we work with it on a site-specific plan. So every time we can make a shortcut, we do that and create a new bridge or a new passage through the city so that we can get people on the bike. So the city in slow motion is a city that we will still go for the next 10 years as well. And this is just a Copenhagen normal street where we have the broad pedestrian area and the broad bicycle lane. And this is one of the shortcuts over the harbor. When we did that bridge, we thought that 3,000 would take it on a daily basis. And today it's more than 12,000 that is taking that on a daily basis. And we just opened up a new bridge, and the amount of people is already at that level. I have a discussion with the mayor because he thought that that there would not be that many on that new bridge, so I won a bottle of champagne. The second issue in this is that we want to have a city with an edge, and that is focusing on flexibility and creativity and unique neighborhoods. Yeah, the creativity is to try to not over-program the city. Now I'll just go a little too... It's a little annoying, this. So, not over-program is one of the indicators. One of the other indicators how to create unique neighborhoods. And this is a new neighborhood where we will keep the old history. This is just an old warehouse. It has non-architectural value, but we will take it down, we will keep the structure, and we will create a new urban park, nature park in the center of this area that will be the character of the whole neighborhood. And this unique neighborhood, I think, seen from an architectural point of view, it's 1 out of 8 indicators. And that is quite a strong indicator to go with when we start to develop the different neighborhoods together with the different developers in the city. And then, of course, when we create unique neighborhoods, we have to be aware that we do not get gated communities. So, of course, they have to belong together. And this is just a new harbor ring, which is a pedestrian and bicycle area that is done in Copenhagen. And we just opened a new temporary bridge last month that is the last missing link on that harbor ring. So the new bridge will go down when the real bridge will be there within 5 years. Da-da-dum. The last one is the responsible city. It also has 3 indicators: no waste of resources. It has a lot to do with, of course, how we can recycle, but also how we can take care of the heat inside the building. This is one of our new renovated building, where you can see that they have kept the old house and have renovated and isolated on the outside. I need to have some more, because this is really, the climate plan is the second one in being a responsible city that has a lot to do with how we can get focusing of energy consumption and energy production. And I could keep a whole lecture on that. It's just to say that it's still a part of focusing on this strategy. And the last issue is the Cloudburst Plan, which came out on a strategic level in 2011. And it came out on a site-specific level in 2013, where we get the overview of every single raindrop that goes into the ground. And in 2014, we have now 300 projects that will just go on for the next 20 years. A lot of investment in this. This is one of the new urban areas that was opened a month ago. A new one is on its way, Enghaveparken, where we both have this focus on the heavy rain, but also on the everyday rain. Another one is just to show you that by making this strategy and getting those site-specific plans and designing those 300 projects on a program level, we just have to go on now for the next 10 to 20 years with all those projects. So that was learning the lesson 1, the long one, to try to be more strategic and try to use the strategy to be the combination of how you can get something on the site-specific level and how it makes it much easier to talk with the developers and the stakeholders and the NGOs and the politicians and the administration, how we can talk together. So in a way, this strategy is also a way of creating a language together about what kind of cities do we like. So now I go through the last 7 lessons very, very quickly. And it's more like some kind of reflection of, if I look back the last 10 years and see what have we learned, and if I look forward and see what will both be the challenge for the next 10 years, but also what is so important if we want to create good cities. My point of view is that the next 7 words is something that we have to be aware of and that we have to keep our focus on if we still want to have good cities. Trust is one thing. I can see that trust is under challenge the whole time. We have to trust each other. We have to make open spaces. We must not allow fencing. We have to be aware that we have to think of the good in human beings. So we have to trust and start stopping gating, fencing, controlling. We have to make trust in each other if we want to create good cities. And this is from a project where it's privately owned, it's SEB, it is a bank area. And to have a permission for building there, he should give this park in between together to the public with public access. No fencing, no signing saying this is private area. So we have to insist on a city level to do that. The next one is to insist in the human scale. Be aware of the whole time that it is for human beings that we are creating cities, and try to understand what we do as human beings. We fall in love with each other, so we have to create cities where it's possible to have eye contact. There is a lot of research saying that if you have eye contact, it's much easier to fall in love. So why don't we create cities where it's possible to have eye contact? Also, we know all the thing about how we get happiness, a lot about how the system as animals, how we function, and we have to understand that in creating good cities, especially when we are having high-rise building and things like that. Facilitating is a thing that we have to be aware of. I said a little about it in the beginning of understanding or beginning our new strategy. We have to look at ourselves when we are urban planners as facilitator instead of manager. So we have to change our role in the way that we organize cities. We have to be more holistic. It's so difficult each time we discuss a project. I think it's difficult every single day I work with projects in Copenhagen. It is so difficult to have this holistic view because then it is another department. This is our school, and one of the places where we succeed is with our schoolyards because it is in another department. It's another mayor. So it's so difficult when we should create good, livable schoolyards. But there is a politics saying that the schoolyards in Copenhagen has to be open for public, no fencing. It just has to connect with the city. And because that department has this strong vision, it's easier for us in the technical and environmental department to do that and implement that in our cities. And it is in every scale we are talking that to have a holistic view, always asking for the context, always asking for the other views on each problem is something that is important in the future. Placemaking, and there is only 3 more left. Placemaking is an issue that we have to be aware of in the future. And by doing placemaking, it is a lot to do with understanding the site. It has a lot to do with that we have to understand that Copenhagen is not going to be Montpellier or Eindhoven and the other way around. So we have to understand our culture to create good places. And we have to understand where will the sun be, what will the flow be in that neighborhood to create a good place. And we have to keep the history and understand the character of the site to create and make placemaking. And then we have to keep on having a design focus. I see every day we as architects are challenged because often the politician is asking, why do we need architects every time? And then it's so difficult to try to explain, but who's going to make the drawings? And the politician is saying, well, the builders can do that. Or the citizen is saying, how can it take so long time? So there is something where we are so, as planners and architects, we are so bad at explaining how we work. And we are so bad at explaining what the design process is. This is an urban space, and it's a new way of taking care of bicycle parking in Copenhagen. By putting down the bikes 40 centimeters, you can see above them, and it makes it a lot easier, and it makes it less, what is the English word? Messy. Because your eye just look above the bicycle instead of looking inside the bicycle. It's because there has been a design process that has been discussing that from the beginning. So we need to keep on focusing on that design is a way to make solution for a lot of the problems that we are having. Not alone, but of course together with a lot of other competences. And then the last one is the dialogue. And this is an image, or it was a dialogue that we did the other day. We were asking the Copenhageners, the map underneath, we were asking the Copenhageners, Where do you think that there should be broader bicycle lanes? Where do you think there is missing bicycle lanes? Where do you think that is complicated crossovers? And by 1.5 days, there was 400 reaction on the Facebook map, or in the city's map above it. And by today, we just had a totally, 14 days after, we had a totally image of where the new bicycle route will be in the city and where we have to put the effort. We couldn't know that in the administration, and each single citizen couldn't know that. So that is because of the multiple of citizens that has reacted on those questions that we get some knowledge that we didn't have before. And I think that by focusing on this dialogue issue, we will be better, and we will go on by putting all the knowledge that we are having together into one new map that we do not see before we start. 3 minutes. That was it. So that was, we were asked to give 5 to 6 lessons. That was 8, and I hope that they can inspire you in one way or the other.